be bold, be courageous, trust the desires of your heart. They're not crazy. And if you're around people who are telling you that your dreams are crazy, then you need to have nobody around you until you find your people and you find people that you gel with who say, why not? Or how can we help?
This is Journey to Point B, where you can find success stories of people who have achieved the same goals you're striving for. I'm your host, Lucia, Csoma, and it's my hope that these stories will provide motivation for your own journey to Point B. Tiana, welcome. Such a pleasure to have you on my show.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Tiana, what I know about you is that you are now the COO of a fintech company. But what I know is that this was not the case 4 years ago. 4 years ago, you set some goals for yourself to be who you are today. And I was wondering if you can take us back to where you were 4 years ago and what created this need to set these goals for you and for your daughter.
Yes, absolutely. About 3 years ago, I was at home and just really thinking about our future and what I wanted it to look like. And I said to myself, by the time my daughter is a freshman in high school, I want to be like driving a certain car. I want to have a certain level of income. And I want to know that every day when I drop her off a private school, I wanted her to be in private school so bad because I did not have that opportunity as a young girl. So when I drop her off and we are in all of those settings and all of that's taking place, I wanted to genuinely feel good about being there. And I wanted to feel that I have worked hard enough to deserve to be there. And that what people were seeing of us was what was real. So like a hardworking mom dropping off her daughter. So that was my thought process 3 years ago. And I am so happy to say that now she's a sophomore at the private school. And all of those things that I had manifested are in place.
This is very encouraging because a journey to a change often begins, like all the time, it begins with a decision. And you made a goal and you made a decision to move towards that goal. And I'm curious, what happened next? You set that goal. What happened next?
Yeah. I just had to put in the work. I think that we can want so many things in life, and I want a lot of things, but you also have to know that you have to put in the work to get there. And so I am at CCG Catalyst Consulting Group. It's a global banking and fintech consulting firm. And I really always think, even though I worked hard to get to the role that I'm in today, it's still a blessing, right? So I worked really hard to get into this role, and I'm Chief Operating Officer of our consulting firm, and I am president of CCG Fintech, which is I have the luxury of traveling the world to find fintechs to partner with banks. And so it was raising my hand saying, I started as a principal consultant back in 2020, worked my way up to director of operations. I love operations and financial services, really in any organization, and to streamline processes. And then I moved into the chief operating officer role. So I have my hands really in everything that involves both of the companies. And so for me, it was really believing that I could feel and be and have all of those things that I wanted to manifest back in, I guess now 2020. And so it was just putting in the work. It was not easy to have the life that I have today as a single mom. So I'm not married. It is very hard. It's hard to keep my schedule and stay on point with not only my roles and responsibilities, but those of others within the organization, but also the life of a teenager. It's like you become a taxi driver, you become, a coach, you become, you're a mom, you're a counselor, you're a disciplinarian, all the things. And so it does take quite not just scheduling, but understanding the tasks that are at hand every single day and moving forward with making sure that they all get done.
Mm-hmm. And what did it mean to put in the work?
Yeah, you have to show up. I think there's definitely days that and speaking to women out there who are working moms, whether you're married or not, or you're doing it on your own or whatever your situation is, just as a woman and a mother in general, we take on so much responsibility. We want to do more than that's required of us. And then not to mention, I don't even think I mentioned in my last moment was you have to take care of yourself too. I think that's just such an unspoken thing that even a lot of us kind of brush under the rug. And so for me, it is To put in the work is to not giving up, but also sometimes putting in the work is stopping and resting. When I was younger, as a new mom, between like the ages of like 22 and 25, I was the type who wanted to work out all the time. I wanted to not sleep. I felt like if the least amount of hours I could tell somebody that I slept, the harder they thought that I was working. The least amount of PTO that I took was saying that I was committed and dedicated to whatever organization I was a part of. But as I have grown and matured professionally in my space or in this space, rest is so important. The way I feel the next day, tackling tasks that were still needing to be completed or new things that were coming up, meeting new people, being ready to hear from someone such as yourself to say, you want to be on this podcast. Like you have to have a level of mental stability and awareness in order to show up for multiple things a day. And so for me, putting in the work was understanding um, what did I want to really truly feel like? Like I said, when I showed up at the school or when I show up and I look at myself in the mirror, um, as I get older, I find more moments of that. I have a really good life. And it's because I am at peace with what is going on versus feeling like I'm doing it for the wrong reasons. And so when I set that intention back in 2020 of the life that I wanted to have for my daughter and I as she got older, um, I knew that it needed to feel good. And I didn't want to do it and be operating like I'm flying by the seat of my pants.
What would you say, Tiana, was your main motivation to achieve what you have achieved, to have the life that you have now?
So I'm not going to say that like it's my daughter because like it's obvious, right? You're a parent, you want to do well by your kid. But growing up, we had nothing, like absolutely nothing. And I would look around at other kids at school. And so I lived in a more affluent neighborhood, but like where we lived specifically was not. It was like five of us in two-bedroom condo, if you would. And so my parents, like they had a car, they didn't have a car, and kids would pick me up for parties in like super nice cars, or they would wear Old Navy. And I would think that that was like the most extravagant thing ever. Or they would bring their lunch and I didn't bring my lunch. And so as I grew up, I would start to pay attention to my parent, like things that other kids had at other families. And then I would look at it and say, there must be something that my parents have not figured out yet. And what is that? A lot of it came down to my mom worked really hard and my dad did, but how they did it was not sustainable long term to provide like a legacy for our family. So I would say, okay, well, their parents do this. Oh my gosh, their parents went to college. So I was the first one to graduate college in my family. I went to the Colangelo College of Business, Grand Canyon University. And so it was paying attention to what other people had and how they looked and felt. And then I said, well, what if I do those things? So even as an adult today, and I have friends that have, more than I do, or they have a business that I'd really like to try, or they file their taxes a certain way and they have a really great accountant. I'm constantly learning and seeking out like, so you have that lifestyle. So then that means you have to do these things to get it. And following the roadmaps that people have put in place for us. It was basically just noticing that I personally did not have to live that same life growing up, and I had power inside of me to make that shift. And so for me, that was talking to my friends, learning more about their lives. Like I had one friend who, she actually, her mom would always have something fresh baked on the counter when we would get home from school. And so even little things like that, I was like, oh my gosh, when I become a mom, I'm going to have fresh baked goods on my counter when my daughter comes home from school. And so that was always something that was really, really important to me.
What I love from what you shared, Tiana, is that you were a learner even when you were very young. And instead of falling into the traps of comparing and seeing how your situation was different, your mindset was, hey, how can my situation be different? How can I improve my situation? How can I learn from the examples that I've seen so I can have that too? Because I see so
Yes.
often that we fall into the trap of comparing and really thinking that, oh, we don't have that. It's how things will always be, and we don't see that it's possible for us as well. So for you, what I see in your story is that you saw what is possible and you believe that if that is possible, it's possible for you as well.
Absolutely. That is absolutely right.
And Tiana, as you embarked on this journey to reach your bold goal, what would you say was one of your biggest challenges that you had to overcome?
Oh my gosh. My absolute greatest challenge has been being a mom. My daughter, when she was born, I'm like, what am I going to do? I was so young. I was 21 years old when I had my daughter. So it's like, what am I supposed to do? Good thing I already had a lot of um, really strong characteristics about myself. So I was super motivated. I was going to school full time, working and coaching track. Track season ended, and then I ended up having my daughter. So it was a matter of like, what do I do? I had a good work ethic. I knew how to earn money. So it really was, what am I going to do? And how do I do this with being responsible for another person? So I stayed home for 2 years with my kid. And then when I went back to work, I went back to work at America. And that was such a blessing. I was there 7.5 years. And in that time, I learned how to take her to daycare. And when she was there and I was trusting people to take care of her, I could focus on Tiana. And that was at 23, I think it was. And being so young, I still knew that I had a life to fulfill separate from her. And the greatest gift I've ever given to myself, which has helped me overcome single parenting, was not waiting to be successful until she was 18 or not waiting to be successful until she was older or out of high school. I have found a way to continue to grow, get promoted, move up the ranks in professional environment to provide more and more and more for us. I really do not know what I would be doing today if I had never got promoted, if I had never had people and mentors tap into me. So to overcome the greatest challenge of providing, not just providing, but just like being able to be aware and available as for a kid and to accomplish
Mhm.
goals, I had to put myself first. And a lot of people are like, what? That's selfish. You didn't put your kid first. And it's like, no, you have to put yourself first. So I would actually take an opportunity to speak into the lives of some of the other single moms at the office. And I would say, they're like, well, I can't get promoted because if I'm promoted, then I can't work your crazy schedule. And who's going to take care of my kids? And my thought process was the more promotions I get, the more income I'm able to earn. And the more I have in order to pay someone to help watch my daughter, right? Or I can pay for her to be in extracurricular activities. I mean, there were times when summer programs cost me $2,000 to $3,000 a summer, but thankfully, because had I had not worked hard, I would not have had that. And I think if more people, not just women, were to think, if I do more, I will have more. But it's not just about being busy; it's about being strategic. Since my daughter's been 5 years old, I've never had to clock into a job. And that has been a blessing for me because my work ethic, my leadership has provided me the ability to have a flexible schedule. I do work a lot still. People that just meet me might think, oh my gosh, you're always working. But they don't see when I stop at 2:30 or 4 o'clock to pick up from school or swim or basketball or track. They just see me working. So to overcome the biggest obstacle of being a single parent and having to manage both of or all of the schedules that are prevalent today, it's been knowing that um, the promotions are privilege and utilizing those as far as whether they came with income or flexibility. Sometimes flexibility was more of an asset than actual income. And when I knew that becoming task driven was more important than time blocking. Some people still preach time blocking today. I don't. I preach task. So whether it's you need to clean your house, let the exterminator in the middle of the day, drop your kids off, or complete a report for work, it's just getting done what you need to get done, and then you can stop. Or stop to write a list to say, this is what I didn't complete today. I need to do it tomorrow. Time blocking for me does not work. It's just being tunnel vision as far as what I have to get done. And I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and I have been more productive with that. So just overcoming my biggest obstacle is just knowing that, knowing everything that needs to get done and believing that I can do it. And the proof has kind of been in the pudding for me so far.
So I kind of see asking yourself the question like, how can I make this work? How can I work this in my advantage? It's not
Oh,
focusing on how can
yeah.
this not work? Oh, I'm going to get promoted. I'm not going to have time. Like, no, if I get promoted, I'm going to have resources that can allow me to be the mom that I want to be, and flexibility or financial rewards, whatever it is to make sure that you can be a mom and you can be a professional woman as well.
That's exactly right. And I think today I'm just so grateful for the ability to create your own life. I think that's one of the biggest blessings that I've ever realized. And during COVID, I went on a lot of runs. I was running all the time just to kind of see how far I could run. I would run 2 miles one way and 2 miles back. And I'm like, wow, 4 miles. I never thought I'd run 4 miles. And on those walks or runs, I would stop and think like, holy cow, we are really in control of how we run our day. And I don't have all great days, and most days are kind of challenging because the reality is I am doing this, right? But you can say, this is what I want. A lot of us, we manifest all the time, whether that's, oh, you see a picture and you're like, I want my hair like that, or I want to dress that way, or I want to go to yoga class. Oh, I think it's so cool when I see the girls walking out of yoga class. So now you're going to yoga class. Like that was a manifestations also need actions behind them to some capacity, whether you call it faith or whatever. But it, if we did it on a larger scale, so then I started saying, okay, I want to drive a certain car. And then I noticed like when I was younger, I had these cars that I really liked. And then now I have what I like. But then it's like, okay, well, that's kind of materialistic. Like, what if I manifested like the energy I want in my home and what I want my home to feel like and what I want my daughter to feel like? And I just bought a new house and my daughter was doing her homework the other night and I was just just an abundance of joy came over me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I promised you this. I promised you that you would be raised in a new house or high school. And we had a house before and it took too long to buy another one, but here I was accomplishing that goal. And it was like, oh my gosh, it's because I truly believe to the core. And when you have a thought and a feeling and those two things align, you got to start getting excited because that's when it's going to happen. And so I told my daughter, I said, I just want you to know, like, this is all for you. And I'm so excited that it is. And I'm so excited that you get to be at peace and in a moment and you can do your homework wherever you want to do your homework. And she couch surfs in our different living rooms, on the weekends. She says, this one or that one. And she does her homework in different dining rooms we have. And then she sleeps in her bed and during the school nights and it's all about her. And I'm just so grateful that I don't, if I owe anybody anything, it's the thank yous to mentors and people who have believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, who have challenged me. I had someone challenge me back in, 2010 or 2011 when I was a mortgage loan officer. And he said, kid, you're really bright. But if you don't get your degree, there is going to be a ceiling for you. Your personality and your work ethic will only take you so far. And so I went back and got my degree in finance and economics at the Colangelo College of Business at GCU. And that has opened more doors for me than I can ever tell you. So I'm so grateful for the people that have been along the way. And like on my marathon, her handed me those glasses of water, but they were motivation, encouragement, a hug, telling me some of the things that people have spoken into my lives have been so far beyond what I would ever think of myself. But they have resonated with me and given me encouragement to always keep going.
Keep going. Do you do any visualization or do you have a vision board or how do you manifest your goals when you're thinking about them?
Oh my gosh. I definitely have a vision board. And so I love my vision board. I put everything on there. I put on there, for example, I think it was like a year or so ago, I put like traveling. Never did I know that I was going to be in this chief operating officer role, president of CCG Fintech, where I get to go to London and I'm going to Toronto in 2 weeks. I think it's in 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. And I get to go to New York. I've always wanted to go to New York. I get to travel all over and it's exciting. I have things on there if I want to, whatever income I want to earn. I have like cars that I want to drive. I have who I want to be. I put on my vision board last year that by this date, I wanted to buy a house that had these things in it. And I actually got a little bit more than what I wanted. I did not get the laundry room with the sink, but I did get 2 living rooms and an office, an extra guest bedroom and all the things. But those are things that I put on my dream board. And even if it's, if I have a project, I even put on there, this project for this person is going to work out better than expected. Or I had multiple streams of income coming to me and more than one source on a continuous basis. So I love that. So yeah, I always, whatever it is that I truly want, I have affirmations. I have 3 papers right now sitting next to my bed. And they talk about multiple streams of income. They talk about something that I'm really have on my heart right now. And another one is there was something that I really needed to happen for my daughter's school. And it was related to tuition. And I wrote that on there and I read it every single day. And I think it did actually just come to pass. So it's
Uh,
exciting.
it's so amazing, the power of visualization, because I believe that that sets
Yeah.
the direction to where we want to go. It's not that magically it occurs. Action, it's important, but visualizing, believing that's
Yeah.
possible for you, then that drives often the action in order to get there. Tiana, if a single mom or just a professional wants to climb up higher, they want to have a certain income, they want to have certain things in their life, certain lifestyle, certain life, and they're discouraged. They are in the beginning of their journey and they don't even see that's possible for them. What would be some of the things that you would tell them if you were to mentor them?
Yeah, I would. Well, one, I mean, the magic question, right, that we all say when someone asks us about this is, why do you want it? Like, why do you want it? Like, what does it even mean, right? Like, do not try to be in a role in a C-suite because of the money. It's or a leadership role, period. Even if it's a frontline leadership role at a bank and you're managing a call center, like, don't do it for the money. You have to love the people. You have to love what is directly correlated with that role. Even if it's maybe in a warehouse, you have to love like organizing or doing logistics. Like you just have to love what's attached to where you're trying to go. Or love who it's going to help and support. Maybe it's your family or your spouse, somebody. I would say that for one, know your why. Two, be willing to put in that work today. Like the whole dress for the job you want, not the job you have. There's a book, Think and Grow Rich, that I absolutely love. And it talks about like you need to give more in your service than you receive in compensation. So even if you're, let's say that you're making $100,000 a year, give more in that in your service and your work that you're producing. Don't just be at that cap. That's not how it works. You want to always be giving more because that's how the organizations are able to see that you can offer more. And that's life in general. I think that whether you believe in the universe or whatever your beliefs are,
Hmm.
naturally, if you continuously do something, you start to get compensated, whether that's, like I said earlier, sometimes that compensation is just time freedom, right? So you work a little bit
Hmm.
harder. You do more chores in the morning, you have more free time in the rest of the day. So it's all a thing. Um, so I would say definitely those two things for sure, and just be patient with it. Don't definitely set intention, which on my dream board, there's a lot of deadlines and dates. You want it by this time. If you say I want it to happen by the time I'm 50, it'll probably happen. I think I shared with you before. I moved back in 2021, I think it was, and or 2019, and I had found a ton of journals around my house when I moved in, and they all said that I wanted to make a certain amount of money, and I was making that exact amount of money, and I was like, "Holy cow! If I write down, I should have wrote down more. I should have put a couple extra zeros on there. Like oh my gosh." So now I'm like, you have to believe it for yourself. And it doesn't sound like magic, or those of you listening don't believe in manifesting or faith or whatever. Like, just believe in what you want. We'll keep it simple. What do you want? How
Hmm.
much do you want to earn? Is it because you need that or you want that? And it's not selfish to want to be able to travel the world. It's not selfish to want to have more than one car. It's not selfish to have nice things, but it's when I saw that number and I was making that, oh my gosh, I kicked myself so hard. I'm like, I should have wrote down all these other things. And so now I'm bold, be courageous, trust the desires of your heart. They're not crazy. And if you're around people who are telling you that your dreams are crazy, then you need to have nobody around you, right? Until you find your people and you find people that you gel with who say, why not? Or how can we help? I have my friends that I'm close with that we talk probably every week, but I also have people that we talk when we need to talk. And those are probably some of the most supportive folks that will offer up resources at the drop of a hat or at the stop of a dime. So, and I do the same for them. And that is a special network to have where you all are socially connected to reach your individual goals, but you cannot do that without each other. Let that resonate. It's such a big deal. And also, if you're on a journey of promotion, or if you're on a journey of starting a business, or just anything that you want and other people are doing it, don't look to the left or the right, other than to ask maybe for mentorship or how they've done it. You're only in competition with yourself, and that there's so much room for everyone. Like, think about the car industry. There's so many cars that are being made, but people don't stop innovating how cars are made, right? There's so many places people can live. There's not just houses. Somebody said, what about apartments? What about condos? What about tin cans or whatever they're doing nowadays? And they're making the
Mm-hmm.
houses out of anything. So if you have desires, follow them, and you're going to have a great life.
A lot of wisdom right there. That was absolutely amazing. Thank you so much, Tiana, for sharing your wisdom, sharing your journey. I believe that this is an encouragement for everyone, whether they're pursuing certain job or starting or growing their own company. I'm curious, Tiana, what is the goal that you're working towards today that you want to manifest?
Oh my gosh. When I was rereading this before prepping, and I might have shifted before. So my goal today really is to reel it all in. I feel like I've been working so hard to accomplish what I set my intentions on a few years ago. And as a mother of a now in high school, and she's having more and more goals, I feel like I can't catch up with myself because I'm too busy catching up with my daughter and her life. And so I'm really big on maturity, and that's just in the privacy of just between me, myself, and I. I'm not, some people might say that I'm really hard on myself, but it's just like, what does that maturity look like for me today? So with the company I'm at today, my biggest goal is to, um, how do I have more reach with people? And this podcast, I really thank you for having me on, because it's an opportunity for people to want to get to know me, then also to hear this portion, which is my goal is to, how do I become better known in the fintech space, and not from a selfish standpoint, but just to learn and ingest all the information that I can. I do feel like I have a unique way of communicating things. And so I'm really, really going internally to say, what is the best way for me to add value in this space? And so
Mm.
that's one of my main goals professionally. And so whether that is having a podcast or just being a guest on multiple, and it's going to take me reading a lot of literature about what is happening in the financial services and when it comes to fintechs today, whether it's payments, digital, core, etc. And as a mother, my goal is to make sure that I'm constantly being a pillar in my daughter's life and a leader, and showing her what it takes to be poised, but also real.
Mm.
Sometimes poise can suppress a lot of the realities of, like, today is hard. Like, I had a really hard week at the beginning of this. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm doing a lot. I'm doing so much. And I would love to have like someone in my life to share this with. But if I were to focus on what I don't have, I had to redirect that energy to say, but I do have a lot of great things today. I have friends, I have family, I have amazing people at work. So that reeled me in. And just as Tiana, it was going back to the gym. And I think that it's not just one thing, because all those things work together. So going back and getting in shape, which gives me energy and self-esteem that I need to be on podcasts, to travel, to show up and be in front of people, right? But also to be healthy long term, to always be present for my daughter, to help her accomplish her goals. And so I think it's really, don't put, that sounds like a lot for some people, but it's not. I think you have to put yourself first so that you could be present for everybody else, and it all just decides to mend together. So that would be my biggest challenge that I'm facing today is, how do I sustain all of this and then give myself enough mental capacity to plan for the next 90 days and then the
Mhm.
next 3 to 5 years when I'm sending my daughter off to college.
Just based on our discussion today, I have no doubt you're going to figure it out in the most amazing way. I honor the time that you took, Tiana, today. Thank you. If anyone from the listeners would love to find out more about you, maybe get in contact with you, what would be the best way for them to do so?
I would love to talk to anyone, especially if something resonated with you and it's been something that you've been banging your head against the wall over. I'd love to just kind of have a virtual or in person coffee. We can connect, especially if you're in Phoenix or Scottsdale. So on LinkedIn would probably be the best for me. So my LinkedIn profile is Tiana Brown AZ, if you put it after the URL. And so I'd love to hear from you and see what resonated with you most about today's podcast.
I will have that information in the show notes as well. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being vulnerable.
Thank you too. I thank you for doing what you love, because if you weren't doing what you love, I would not be on this podcast today. So this is just a perfect example of always do what you love, because you create opportunities for other people. So it's not cliche when they say we need you to follow your dreams. And because you're doing that, I was able to be here today. So I am also honored, and I thank you so much.
Thank you. I feel very encouraged. I hope this episode gave you some inspiration for reaching your goals. If you found it useful, please hit the subscribe button. This will help me bring you more inspirational stories to support your own journey to point B. Thank you.